Hey man, how are you? Hello? Can you hear me?
Afternoon, Sid. How are you?
It's been a bit of a battle of emotions, eh? First, England denying us on net run rate, and then Afghanistan beating. I mean New Zealand then beating Afghanistan. But before we get to all that, let's get. Normally, I would review the second week of matches, but since I'm a bit emotionally drained, let's just get down to the main important match that happened yesterday, because that's what it all came down to. Yeah, your quick thoughts on Australia versus the West Indies. I was a bit disappointed with West Indies bowling changes, eh? Just felt it was a bit too easy.
Yeah, look, they've really been a disappointment this World Cup from the start. I think the Windies, the entire tournament, they really haven't got running. I think from the start, the selection of some players, I think they got the selection completely wrong for this tournament. They
Hmm.
really didn't have a genuine wicket taker, which was a
Hmm.
concern, especially against opponents that would take the game to you. And I guess, if you look at it right back to 2 weeks ago when they were bundled out for 55 in Dubai by England, you could say the writing was
Hmm.
on the wall in terms of the campaign. And it just it never got going, never got going. But I guess, as an SA fan, you were pretty hopeful yesterday that they would go out on a high. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to
Hmm.
be. And
Hmm.
I obviously you obviously got to realize something in especially in sport and professional sport. You can't expect other teams to do favors for you. It's not going to work that way.
Hmm.
And yet they proved it as well. Australia were right up for this game from the start, and they were really clinical as to how they went about it. And you know.
Hmm.
If I look at that bowling display from the Windies, they were all over the place, and I think a guy like Warner really found his form in that game. So definitely not a tournament for West Indies will want to remember very soon. Uh, you know,
Hmm.
and it's goodbye to two legends of the game, Universe
Hmm.
Boss, Chris Gale, and DJ Bravo. I think they've been sensational in this format, and you probably wanted to go out on a high, but you came up against an Australian side that they really wanted to take net run rate to another level, and didn't want it to
Hmm.
get to that stage, and you saw it with the intent. They just showed a lot of intent in that game, and it was over in a flash. Hey, they were going at 10 and over, and quite clinical in the end.
Hmm. Yeah, man. It looks like no team ever wanted to really do anybody a favor. I mean, like England were really so ethical. I thought I was having this conspiracy theory in my head, man, that maybe England would have like, you know, tried out different batsmen to open the batting yesterday, and then if they lost, you know, it would have just been England were doing too much khichdi, they were saying Hindi, but really ethical opening with the correct batsman, and yeah, man, it's really sad. But at least I must give it to us. We really gave it our best shot. I thought we weren't going to get to that 180 because we started off at a interesting pace, but great batting by Van der Dussen and Markram and yeah. But then you said something interesting on WhatsApp. You're saying that the world believes net run rate cost us, but then you didn't finish your line about what. So what do you think cost us not qualifying?
Yeah, look. First of all, I actually don't know how to feel today. Uh,
Mm.
if
Mm.
you look at the tournament as a whole, played five, won four, lost one, and
Mm. Mm. Mm.
we gone about this, and we gone about this the entire week about that Bangladesh game, and how you didn't really chase that down
Yeah.
faster. I think that would be one of the
Yeah.
cases, but I think if you want to leave things to net run rate, it's never going to be in your favor. it's really never going to be in your favor, because if you want to play net run rate, sooner or later it's going to run out. Your luck is going to run out. So
Okay.
the net run rate really didn't mean much to me in the end, because you had 4 teams on 8 points, and essentially we won 4 games in a row. But we won the wrong side of 4 games. You know, we won the wrong 4 games in a row. Whereas if I look at the beginning of the tournament and that game against Australia, that is where I feel this tournament was probably lost, and that is where advantage was actually given to Australia to control this group. And had we won that game, we would probably have been in the ascendancy and not needing to win this game against England to go through. Because leading up to the tournament, we all knew what England was going to bring to the party. We all knew that they were the side to watch out for. And everybody was obviously trying to beat each other, whoever was around them. So that's what it all came down to in the end. It's sort of like a consolation win in a way, I would say, because I mean, to keep that England side down to 131 was going to be some feat. But however, it was never going to be possible on a ground like Sharjah, where you've got one side that's 70 meters and you've got one side that's 50 meters. So essentially, South Africa didn't get the job done in the first game against Australia, and I got to be critical of them in that game, and especially the preparation that went into that game. I mean, let's face it. I mean, you had like 2 months to prepare for that first game against Australia, and it came down and to that game. And I mean, that was as bad a performance with the bat as you could have asked for. You know, it was an absolute. It was a very poor performance with the bat. It was a stinker from the SA batsmen. They never really got going on that pitch. I mean, we know both teams actually struggled, but I think Australia deserved to win in the end, because, I mean, they restricted us to 180. So that's essentially where it was lost. So if you could go back and win that game, and obviously Australia were really whooped by England in the third game that they played. You're essentially looking at a game where against England, and that being probably a dead rubber in a way, or possibly fighting it out for top spot. So I mean, it's the team did pretty well in this tournament, to be fair. I mean, it looks that way at the moment, that losing one game, but it showed in that Australia game that this team is not the finished product. Still some way to go, and it's down to the batting. I think the bowling has done a lot to actually win us games in this tournament, but the batting, it came off yesterday and in a game against England. But I guess you had to go for it. You had no choice but to go for it. And you saw Rusty played an amazing knock of 94, and he was unlucky not to win 100, because I thought he deserved one, and Aiden Markram as well. And another concern in this tournament was the power play. It seems like we never attacked in the power play. We were playing too conservative, and that really cost us a lot towards the back end, where we had to actually those big hits to get those runs in the end. So I mean, it comes back to, I guess, what sort of game plan you want to employ as a team. But I think it's
Hey man.
Hi, sorry about that.
Nah, it's fine, it's fine. Yeah, you were saying something about the power play. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hi, how are you?
Fine, man. I can't see you. That's why I was wondering, like, how to invite you. I don't see your face here. I don't know what happened.
I can see you. I can see you quite clearly.
Oh, that's strange. God, it feels a bit odd here. I can hear you, but I don't see your face. So you're telling me about the power play.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, fine. Yeah, tell me something. You're telling me about the power play.
Yeah, look, the foul play is really disappointing for SA in this tournament. I think the highest score that they did get in the power play was around 42 or 43 against the West Indies. So that's around 7 and over. So I don't think the power play is utilized that much. And I've been critical of this from the start. And I think a guy like de Kock, I think he's the sort of guy that's been like undroppable in this team for a large part of this for a large part of time. Because I mean, if you look at it yesterday, he scored a 34. He scored 34, but I mean, it was too little, too late in the end. So it seems like he's a sort of guy that will give you that score just to stay in the team, and he's going to have 3 or 4 bad performances along the way. That's really going to hurt the team. So that's exactly what's happening with this side at the moment. Because if I look at the makeup of the batting and what really concerned me, leading into this England game, was that there were too many anchors in this team. I mean, you had Risa, you had Bavuma, you had Rassi, but I mean, Rassi played an outstanding innings yesterday. I mean, he's much more than an anchor, and he proved it.
Yeah, he's versatile.
Absolutely versatile batsman. And at some point, I felt, Aiden Markram was a sort of player that probably should have opened the innings, because I think he's the sort of batsman that's better suited to attacking the power play. And I guess it wasn't used because, I mean, they thought Markram was the sort of guy that could come down the order and play those big innings and hit the ball out of the park, which, to be fair, it did to some extent work. So I guess that did happen. But I think that I think a big question here has to go to, I mean, de Kock's place for the future. I'm not sure how that looks, but I think there's a lot of players in the side that are scoring enough runs to stay in the team. So it's sort of like you really can't judge them on 1-2 performances. You've got to judge them over a period of time, and if they don't seem to be performing over a period of time, you need to be brave enough to drop them, and that's exactly what they did with Klaasen.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have any issues dropping Klaasen. I thought that yesterday's game would have been a perfect game for Klaasen as well. Getting somebody to hit the ball out of the ground, just play, just play freely, and obviously he wasn't there, but it's a concern with that opening stand, because that opening partnership has given us nothing in this tournament. I'm a big fan of Janneman, and I thought that probably he was unlucky to not be in the squad. But having said that, I mean, you've got a World Cup in a year's time, and there's a big core of the squad is going to be at that tournament, So I think it's very important for the Proteas to get that opening combination right, because that becomes really important in 2020 cricket when it comes to attacking that power play. And we'll go back to Faf's non-selection as a side, and in that case, I find that a bit baffling as well, because this is a side that's struggling in the power play. And with Faf being there, and him being able to try to attack that power play, and he's been in some of the best form in his career in this season. So that was really baffling for me. And you talk about contract issues. I'm pretty sure you could have found a way around it. You could have found a way around it to get Faf in the team, and I think he brings a balance to the side. I mean, whoever loses out, loses out. It's one of those things, unfortunately. But Faf was needed in the side, especially during that power play.
Yeah, but I think that there's too much. Yeah, but I think there's just too much of politics, in our country. Because think about it, if there wasn't any politics in our country, Faf would have been an obvious choice to be in the squad. Even if it was just for this World Cup, it could have been like a once-off event, and then next year could have been the player that played in this World Cup into next year. I think it would have been at least given us some time, to have groomed some of these players. It's like putting us into the deep end, and then, but though, credit to us, we did better than.
Politics. You're talking about politics. I mean, it's very easy to drop a player. I mean, if yeah, I mean, we talk about this quota situation, but I don't think it really applies to a team that is on the day. I mean,
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know.
given the free ride, there is no such thing as playing. You've got to have 6 players of color or 5 players of color in the side.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think over a period of time where you've got to build a side over that sort of number, but it doesn't apply to tournaments.
yeah.
So I think it was just baffling from
Hmm.
Cricket South Africa's point
No,
of view.
although no, but look at that. No, but remember that World Cup in Australia. No, but remember that World Cup in Australia, right? It did apply to a tournament. Remember, that's why Philander played instead of Abbott because of that whole quota issue. Remember, it does apply to tournaments as well. Remember, so I don't think that's correct.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it necessarily apply to this tournament because I mean if you look at the side, you've got
Uh-huh.
Bavuma at number 2 or number 3. So I think the guy
Yeah.
that could have thrown away was Riza, and I think
Yeah, I
there
was
is no
thinking about him as well. Yeah. Yeah,
there's
that's
no reason to
correct.
keep
Yeah,
Riza.
I would have done the same.
So I mean, as much as you can go on talking about politics, I don't see Riza deciding in a year's time. I either see Yanaman or if they bury
Yeah,
the hatchet with
yeah.
Faf, because I hope they can come to some resolution with Faf, or it's
No, I
over with
think
Faf.
I think it's history, eh? I think it's history when it comes to Faf. They should have used Faf just for this World Cup because he had played in the UAE for the IPL. It was his experience that would have been beneficial for this World Cup. Next year, I think it's pointless. You're rather just better off using the player that you've used in this World Cup because they would have got more experience now playing matches that'll happen before Australia. So I think we just got
Yeah, I agree.
to, and
I mean,
I
this
think we'll
thing
do a lot
about
better in Australia because our bowling, the pitches in Australia will suit us much more. If we don't make semi-finals for next year, I'll be very surprised. I know that sounds weird because we didn't make it this time, but I think with these conditions, I think we should be fine in Australia. I'll be very surprised if we don't make the semis next year.
I think you're getting a bit ahead of yourself. I'd probably like to see the group that's
No,
SA's in.
no,
I
but
do.
look at the pitches in Australia, right? Look at the pitches in
I
Australia,
do
man.
believe
They're
that.
more similar to our pitches back home. And also our bowling is very good. It's just yesterday was a different story, but I think in general we've been very good with the ball. So I think that's what I'm saying in Australia. The pitches in Australia will suit us much more than they suited us here.
Yeah, I guess you're right in terms of the bowling, but I guess you've got to get your batting order right as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can
Don't
go on
worry. I
talking about
think we'll
politics,
be.
but if
Nah,
if
I'm
if
over it
Yanaman
now.
comes,
Politics. I think we'll be fine. I
it
think we'll be fine for Australia. Eh? I think we'll be fine for
doesn't become a
Australia.
political issue. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I like your sentiment. I like your sentiment, but I do feel there's a few areas that needs improvement,
Of
especially the
course.
power hitting.
Of course.
You probably got to get somebody
Hmm.
in at number 6, and you got to get Miller in at number
Hmm.
5. So that would be a little bit more
Hmm.
because I think Miller is batting too deep. I think number 6 is a bit too low for him. I think he's a guy that can come in and he needs time. And if he's given that time and he can really hit the ball a long way. So I think David Miller
Yeah.
is underutilized at 6 with his sort of talent. So if you can get somebody
Yeah.
that can come in at number 6 and hit the ball from ball 2, that would be excellent. So Muller can move up the order, and that makes the team look a little bit
Yeah.
more formidable in terms of their batting lineup. So I mean,
Hmm.
I like your confidence,
Yeah.
but it's still a year to go. Uh, yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
No, no,
Australian
no,
will,
no. I was only saying that because if our side can continue this kind of performance, like how they did against England and the other team, they continue this for the next year before coming to the World Cup in Australia, I don't see why we couldn't make the semi-final. The pitches, if they are as good as they are in Australia, and they're similar to our pitches actually. So that's what I'm saying. If they could continue this kind of trajectory, that's what I meant. They could make the semifinals. I mean, they should make semifinals. I'd be very surprised if they can continue this form. They should. But obviously, I'm surprised you doubt it because you're normally so patriotic.
I don't really doubt it. It's just that you've got to get the batting lineup right. And if your batting
I'm
lineup is
sure we'll
right,
be fine. We'll get that right. I'm sure we'll get it right.
chance.
I'm sure we'll get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't want to
I mean,
sound sour grapes, eh?
2015,
But I think, yeah, 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 yeah. But
in 2015,
but I feel net run rate has gone against us because had we played much more aggressively, chasing such a low total against Bangladesh, and if you think about it, the number of wickets was never really going to be an issue for us. We couldn't chase that number of runs, even in 10 overs. I wouldn't have minded us losing even 8 wickets as long as they had such a good net run rate, because I felt that match against Bangladesh really made Australia's life so easy, because Australia had a really rubbish net run rate after England bashed them. So I think we gave them the ascendancy, and then the rest is history, as you've seen. So they're always going to go against us once that West Indies match was done. So, and also Australia played on the best pitches. They've never really played in charge. So imagine them are going to win the tournament playing on the best pitches. So imagine the less versatile side wins it. Eesh, that is the saddest thing ever.
Absolutely.
Hypothetically.
Look, I don't want to bitch and moan about the net run rate because I don't think it really matters at the moment. I think that game against Australia was probably a knockout. And by us losing to Australia, we've probably given them control because they were good enough to beat the other sides in the group, the likes of Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, the likes of West Indies, and we've seen that. So I guess we really anticipate West Indies to have such a shocking tournament that they've had. I see a lot of problems in West Indian cricket at the moment with the way they managing the side and the sort of players they're picking. I think there's a lot of players that are there's a lot of players that are not playing the game correctly there. I mean, the one thing that if you look at the West Indies sides that were successful in the past, they always had a anchor. But if you look at this team that this tournament, it's just bash it around. I mean, there's no such thing as building an innings and taking it deep. There wasn't there was no strategy. But yeah, I do agree with you. I think as much as we can lament that first game against Australia, I think the team are probably to a lot of people's eyes have played above expectations. So they perform above expectations in this tournament. I mean, played 5, won 4, lost 1. I mean, you can't really be ashamed of that. So I guess it's keeping the core group of players together. But I do believe it's also time for the young to get into guys like Yanaman, guys like Jan Luba. They've got to be given a chance. And I'm sure we've got enough power hitters in provincial cricket to get one of them into the side and start blooding those youngsters now. So come 2022, we'll have a core group. But I feel Rassi and Aiden will definitely be there. And I think we've got to build our side around Aiden Markram, because I think he's one for the future. And he's probably the most improved player in international cricket in the last year, given his form. So build our side around him. And I think question marks has to be given to de Kock. I think the management has to have a good talking to about him and how what his role is in the team, because I think his role is very vital up the order. And I'd love to see Yanaman in the side, batting up the order with the Kock, and then probably Bavuma coming in at 4, coming in at 3, and then you've got I guess this is where the challenge lies, because I mean you've got you potentially got Rassi and Aiden coming in thereafter. So having Aiden batting at number 5, I think it's a bit too low down the order. So I think the furthest I could see him bat is number 4. I don't want to see him any lower than that. That's probably the lowest he can bat. So that's where the challenge lies, trying to probably get that balance in the batting lineup together. But we got the bowling attack, no doubt about it. We got the bowling attack to really push for the semi-final spot in 2022. Definitely, it's just about getting the batting lineup right, and we need a player up the order that can attack the power play. Essentially, where we've been found wanting in this World Cup, the power play hasn't gone very well for us. I don't think we've even got to 50 in the power play, so that's a real concern. So, which means there was a lot of conservatism up the order. So we need to go away from that. We need to move away from being conservative, and we need to go for it.
Yeah.
We need to play attacking a brand of cricket and get those 180s, 190s.
Yeah. Speaking of net run rate, that also affected another team which happened today. It's India are out of the World Cup. Afghanistan lost to New Zealand. I was really having hopes. Even the great Sunil Gavaskar had belief in Afghanistan, funny enough. And then yeah, I think they were 25 runs too short. What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, yesterday just proved it beautifully. I mean, if you're going to rely on another team to do the job for you, I think you're in trouble. And that's exactly where India found themselves in this World Cup. They simply were not good enough in those opening two games. They simply were not good enough to get over the line. I mean, I'm talking about it again, and we circled that New Zealand game as a crucial game, as whoever was going to lose the game was probably out of the tournament. And it proved to be the case because you had 3 winners after that. I don't think there was any. I don't think that there was any doubts that New Zealand would probably lose to any of these sides. Although there was some hope from former cricketers and stuff, but this seemed like a very comfortable road to the semi-finals for whoever won that game between India and New Zealand. And unfortunately, India didn't pitch up that day. And this is the nature of T20 cricket. If you don't pitch up, you don't do your job, you're out of the tournament. So essentially, that's what it was. And look, I guess that 1 week break didn't really help them as well. I think it was too long. They probably should have been played 3 or 4 days after that. So yeah, I mean, it's not, it doesn't go all your way. But I guess prior to the tournament, if you ask teams about the schedule, I mean, they agree on that schedule. I mean, the team agreed on the schedule having a week. So I mean, you really can't go back on it. You just got to deal with whatever schedule you be given, because I guess you agree on it as a team. So you really can't go back and blame the schedule. I guess it's down to performance, and unfortunately, the top order didn't really perform in the opening 2 games, and that's exactly what cost them. And it's the same situation with SA as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, if someone had told me that India had to rely on Afghanistan to try and do them a favor, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have laughed my head off.
Yeah, look, I mean, you're playing a street smart team in New Zealand, and the one thing you're going to get from New Zealand is they're going to be using their resources very, very wisely. They're an extremely disciplined team on the field, and they just do the basics well. They're a side that does the basics well, and that is why they through to the semi-finals. And well, I would say, I mean, the next game between Pakistan and Scotland is probably, I would say, a formality. So you probably see a semi-final between England and New Zealand. So that's going to be a big game for them against a powerful England side. I mean, even though they lost yesterday, I think they still have enough power in their lineup.
I think, let me just double check the schedule. I'm trying to see now where that match is being played. I'm surprised they haven't updated it yet here on actually ESP and Crick Info. Oh, show it. Okay, give me a second. I think, are they playing in Dubai off the cuff?
They're playing in Sharjah, I believe.
No. The first semi-final is in Abu Dhabi. The second semi-final is in Dubai. And the final is also in Dubai. No, nothing at Sharjah. I mean, God, how I wish for Afghanistan to play New Zealand at Sharjah, and then Pakistan versus Scotland in Dubai. Oh, how I would have wished for that. Gosh, that is so sad. They mixed the venues up, man.
Absolutely. Look, Sharjah, I mean, we talk about it all the time, but I mean, yesterday proved it's not that bad a wicket. I think if you can just get yourself in.
No, it's improved a lot. It's actually improved. I think it depends on which wicket they use in Sharjah, because sometimes they have some wickets in Sharjah that are weird, and some wickets in Sharjah that are great. But I think they're a lot better than what they were in the IPL. So, yeah, it's fine. I mean,
absolutely
nothing against Sharjah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, you talk about Australia having good surfaces, but I guess you really can't blame surfaces to be fair to you, because, I mean, SA,
Yeah, you
they beat
make your own
Bangladesh
luck,
in Abu Dhabi, and they lost in Abu Dhabi to Australia. So you really can't read too much into it. I mean, they've won in all surfaces, and they've lost in one of those
No,
surfaces. I guess, when it comes to surface,
no, but that wasn't Dubai though. I think Australia lost to England in Dubai. I think that was a good pitch. So Australia never really played in Sharjah. If you look at a team like
no.
us,
Australia never really played in Sharjah,
England,
and I guess
that's the problem.
the same excuse really can't be made to SA as well. I just think they weren't up for it in their first game, and that's what really cost them in the end. Because we could have had a totally different
Mm.
conversation. We would have been talking 5 out of 5,
Yeah,
or 4 out of 5, which would have been
yeah.
the correct side of the draw, as opposed to this side of the draw, where I mean they
But I
won
feel,
the side of 4 games,
yeah,
whereas at that opening game they probably would have been in the semifinals by now. So yeah,
yeah,
the margin for error was so small in this group, and unfortunately,
yeah.
you meant about net run rate. I'm going to go back to the opening game against Australia, where 130, 140 would probably have been enough to get over the line in that game.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know. I just think that if you're chasing 80 runs, right, you shouldn't be chasing it down in 14 overs. I know you're not a fan of net run rate, but it is what it is. It's designed that way. So I think logic would dictate if you're chasing 80, just go for it. Even if you lose 8 wickets, 5 wickets, as long as they get it done in 10 overs, I think that would have put Australia in a bit of a pickle because if you do your mathematics, 80 divided by 10 is 8 minus 4, it's 4 points. It's 4, and then you might divide it up. You know what I'm saying. But anyway, that's over and done with. You know what I'm thinking now for India versus Namibia. If I were India, I would field the players that haven't played already in the World Cup. Just test out the rest of your squad. There's no use playing your best players. You're out of the tournament now. Just see what your future, just see
Yeah,
what the future players can do. You know.
absolutely. You just got to go and express yourself. And getting back to that Bangladesh game, I mean, I know we want to lament
Yeah.
on about it, but look, Australia had the advantage of hindsight, and they played after us, so they knew
Hmm.
exactly what to score
Yeah.
in that game,
Maybe.
and in how many overs to
Yeah.
get
I
it done.
guess.
So um,
Yeah.
I just heard I just heard a conversation on another platform that one of the analysts in the SA
Hmm.
side told the players in that Bangladesh chase to get it done, before 15 overs, which I think was a bit ridiculous in a way. I mean, to get it done within 15 overs, under 15 overs, it's not really going to do uh, much help
Yeah.
to your net rate. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you being Rassi or you being Bavuma and you being given orders from the analyst in the side to get this job done in under 15 overs. I would think, chasing 80, probably maximum 10 overs you would give yourself to get it
Hmm.
done, maximum. So
Yeah.
that
And you have 10
was up.
wickets.
But
Not like you can't make 80
I
with
mean,
10. Yeah.
you
Even if you
know,
lose 8 wickets, as long as you get it done, in 10, I'm okay with that. Intent is
look,
important.
another theory, yeah, I do have another theory. I would say, they were actually going for it, but uh, the Bangladeshis did bowl quite well in that 12, 13
I
overs
guess.
that they did. So
Yeah.
it was a bit of a tricky wicket, as opposed to the wicket that Australia played in Dubai against Bangladesh, which was a lot easier than Abu Dhabi. So I think we've got to really take that into the
Mm.
equation as well. I think the wicket at Abu Dhabi yesterday for the West Indies game
Yeah.
was probably the best batting wicket that we've seen in Abu Dhabi. That was a really good batting
Mm.
wicket, and we saw value for shots in
Mm.
that game. Um, yeah,
Mm.
it's a tough one. Hey, so it is what it is. But I
Yeah.
would rather
But,
put it points lost in that opening game that really
yeah,
just made
I
us
guess.
out on that. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot to build. There's a lot to obviously reflect on. They haven't really embarrassed themselves in this tournament at all. They
Yeah.
have performed above expectations, no doubt about it. Although we haven't reached that semi-final
Yeah.
position, 5 out of 4
Yeah.
is no mean feat. So there is a lot to that they can take forward into
You
the
win like 4 out of 5.
next
Yeah.
tournament. I guess
Yeah.
it's just that conditions is probably going to suit us a little bit more in Australia. So, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I have no complaints with the bowling attack. I thought the bowling was excellent in this entire tournament. Even yesterday, I mean, although it was in Sharjah, they held their nerve towards the end and won the game. All I want to
Yeah.
see is a little bit more intent from the batsmen going
Mm.
forward. They need to
Yeah.
attack that power play as hard as possible and get the
Yeah.
best
Yeah.
possible start for the team.
Yeah. Yeah. But then let's just give our thoughts quickly on the semis. So you're saying England to win the first semi?
Yeah, I mean, looking at this tournament so far, I think New Zealand they've got the job done. They've
Yeah.
been professional in the way they've gone about it. I think their bowling has been quite good. Their bowling has been excellent in this tournament. Uh,
Mm.
and I don't think we've seen the best of them with the batting, but I think you'll be coming up against a formidable opponent in England that really knows how to pace an innings and take a team down either by setting a score or
Mm.
chasing. But I think they back themselves a lot when it comes to chasing as well. So yeah, I think England are clear favourites in that game.
Okay. And then we've got. Oh, then we've got Pakistan versus. Oh, Australia. I don't know how I forgot about Australia.
Well, I guess
I'm
that's
going for Pakistan to win. I'm going for Pakistan to win that.
by
Reason
somebody
because.
uh,
Sorry?
yeah, I was just going to say that's probably potentially the next semi-final, unless Scotland manage to win
No.
this game. I don't see that. So Pakistan would probably win the group, and yeah, they're playing Australia. I just want to know what venue they're playing in. Pakistan and Australia.
Oh, okay. Just give me a second, though. Okay. I think. Oh, now I'm actually confusing myself. Yeah, I think it might be.
Is-
It could be either be in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, but they're both good batting pitches. They're both good fair
yeah,
pitches. So I
okay.
don't think it really matters.
I think it's going to be a Dubai because I
Yeah.
think the first semi-final is in Abu Dhabi. Because I did hear the commentators early on say that if New Zealand win, they're going to be back here in 2 days' time or 3 days' time playing England. So that's probably where Pakistan is going to play Australia. Look, that's a good batting wicket. Dubai is a good batting wicket.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Pakistan have shown how good they are in Dubai. So look, they have the bowling attack. They really have the bowling attack to trouble Australia, and their batting has come to the fore in the tournament as well. So yeah, they'll compete. I'd also go with Pakistan there as well. So I mean, I guess this is one of the finals that we were talking about, and this potentially could be at England and Pakistan in the final. Two of the most consistent sides at the moment in the tournament.
And I think Pakistan will want to beat England badly because England let them down when they came to England when the COVID was very much. I think England had the third highest rate of COVID at the time, and England weren't meant to tour Pakistan for such a long tour. I think it was like a week tour, 1 week, I think, and then they didn't even do that for them. So I think it's more of a, don't want to call it grudge, but it's more like a point to prove to the world. So I think it wouldn't surprise me if they beat England in the finals, and then happy days.
Yeah, that's going to be an amazing game. Let's not forget it. I mean, Pakistan have a lot to prove, and like you said, that there's a lot of emotion going into it as well. Because I mean, England obviously didn't tour Pakistan, so I mean, potentially if that's the final, it's going to be a cracker. It's going to be a cracker of a final, and I see it more
Could
for
also
50-50
them beat
game.
them against New Zealand. Oh, so you're saying also okay. So you could be Pakistan versus New Zealand, and I think they'll also want to beat New Zealand because New Zealand also disappointed. So it'll be like 2 defeats in a row. Like New Zealand lose to Pakistan.
Absolutely. So it's going to be a riveting game, and I think if you're looking at it, this tournament, the 4 semi-finalists, I think probably deserving going through. I think they've done the job. They've done what they had to get into the semi-finals. So I think it's to me it's advantage England and Pakistan at the moment, but anything can happen in this in the semi-final stage, and I just feel those teams have been the most consistent, the most balanced, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the final.
No, but like if it was England versus Pakistan in the final or Pakistan versus New Zealand, who would you pick to win it?
I would think I would think Pakistan would have an easier game against New Zealand as opposed to England. Because
Okay.
to me, the England game is probably a 50-50, whereas the New
Mm.
Zealand game would be 60-40 in favor of Pakistan. So that's how I would see it.
Okay, so I can't push you to pick one between Pakistan and England. I know you say it's 50-50, but like just pick one.
Well, I mean, I've given you the semi-finalists, so we just leave it at that now. We just leave it at that now, and then we can review. Yeah, I think it's a
Oh, you
bit
see, the
too early.
final is yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. The final is actually on it's actually on Sunday, so I guess I can get your thoughts on Saturday. All right, I think
Absolutely.
that's pretty much a wrap. Unless you got any final words.
Yeah, look, I think Italy can hold their heads high. They've done well in this tournament, and
Hmm.
a lot to take into the next tournament. It's just about getting the batting lineup right. I think England is definitely a side to watch
Mm-hmm.
in this for the rest of this tournament, and I wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
surprised if they win it, and I also wouldn't be surprised if Pakistan win it as well. So to me, those
Hmm.
are the front runners. If I see a New Zealand and Australia final, that's probably the most unlikeliest of sort of scenario that I
Yeah.
would go into it. But I think England and Pakistan,
Yeah.
they've got too much in their favor at the moment to not make it to the final.
Yeah, man. If Australia made the final versus New Zealand, hey, that would be the most radical one ever, especially in terms of Australia, because I think, yeah, I imagine team plays, ugh, doesn't matter, but I would be supporting New Zealand one way if that happened.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks, man. We shall chat again soon.
All right. Chat to you soon. Cheers.